All right. Should be recording.
Awesome. Hi, guys. Thank you so much for being here, for watching this. Tonight, I'm going to talk a little bit about budgeting and how we can do that on a budget, and a little bit more about in-depth about personal finances and how to be successful with personal finances. My name's Lindsay Talbot. I currently work at Fidelity Investments and also as a part-time adjunct professor at BYU Idaho. And I love talking with people about finances and talking about money. And it's a passion of mine, but it's also something that I've had to work really hard at. So I've learned a lot along the way, um, in both a professional and personal aspect of budgeting, and happy to share some of that with you guys today. All right. So today we're going to go over 5 steps to successful budgeting, which is going to include number one, setting goals and paying down debt, creating an emergency fund, learning how to track our budgets, and then reviewing and revising. All right. So, who in here would say that they are good with money?
Not me.
I would not say that first. No. I
Yeah,
try.
I think it's hard to qualify yourself as that, and I think more often than not, you people don't like to say, "Hey, I'm good with money." That like I'm that person that's good with money. Um, is my Zoom thing here on the screen? Are you seeing my Zoom or just my PowerPoint?
Just
Um,
PowerPoint, but it is kind of flashing a little bit.
It's flashing.
Yeah, it's like glitching in between.
it's like on the first slide and then it'll like flash for like a millisecond to a different slide.
That's weird. Let me press OK. Tell me if you see any difference. Is it still the same?
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, it's on the be good with money slide.
Okay, I'm gonna reshare it. How's that? Is it still the same? Flashy?
Oh,
Um, it doesn't look flashed. Oh, yeah.
That is weird. Okay. Well
When you
then,
pushed present, it didn't like make it full screen. We see like insert, draw, design, all of those.
sorry. Okay, so you see just the PowerPoint page now,
hmm.
not presenting. Sorry, guys. Gotta love tech stuff.
Yeah, no, you're all good.
Okay. Is it still being weird?
It's not flashing anymore, for me at least.
Just
Oh,
stop me if you start seeing that, and then I'll readjust.
hi, Eva.
Hi, welcome.
Oh,
Hello.
splashed.
Hello,
Nice to see you again. How are you?
doing good.
Good. Good, good.
Okay, it's Eva.
Yes, Eva.
Eva. Thank you. Okay, we're just jumping in already, just talking a little bit about money, but you came at a perfect time. We're just getting started. So tell me, you guys, if it looks funny on the screen, and I'll stop and readjust, okay?
I think it is flashing
Ah!
a little bit.
Eva, is it looking weird for you, the screen?
No.
Oh,
You just see a PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Okay. What about now? Still look normal?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, Ava, feel free to hop in and tell me if it looks weird or whatever. Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay. Awesome. So, just to review, jumping back real quick, we're going to go over setting goals, paying down debt, creating emergency funds, tracking expenses, reviewing and revising. Um, okay. So, be good with money. I feel like that's so much easier said than done. But what I mean with this, be good with money, is to really change your thought process of um who you are and how you are. So James Clear wrote the book Atomic Habits. It's one of my favorite books about creating systems and habits that are successful. He said that he quoted here, imagine two people resisting a cigarette. When offered a smoke, the first person says, "No, thanks, I'm trying to quit." It sounds like a reasonable response, but this person still believes they're a smoker who is trying to be something else. They're hoping their behavior will change while carrying around the same beliefs. The second person declines by saying, "No, thanks, I'm not a smoker." It's a small difference, but this statement signals a shift in identity. Smoking was part of their former life, not their current one. They no longer identify as someone who smokes. So, um, thinking to yourself, like, yes, I am good with money. I am good with finances. And then acting in a way that demonstrates that behavior is a way to change that identity internally, to really tell yourself, like, yes, I am good with money because I do XYZ. And so that's a good way to kind of start that mindset, the shift of mindset to um, train yourself to start having better financial habits. So it sounds like you guys have done a couple presentations about physical health. I love that. But in a similar way, budgeting and finances is like trying to lose weight. Um, there are some like hard and fast rules that if you do this, then you will lose weight. And same with budgeting, right? If you do this, you will be successful with budgeting or with your finances. So we're going to talk a little bit about setting goals, because I don't know about you guys, but I've definitely set a goal to lose weight, but I've also set a lot of financial goals as well. And in this case, you think about losing weight and how if you were to um, work out extremely hard 4 times in 1 month versus mediocre workout 15, for 15 minutes a day for the entire month. Maggie, what do you think would be the difference at the end of a year of doing that?
oh, sorry, I'm trying to figure out the screen from my end. Can you repeat yourself one more time?
Yeah, what do you think the difference of like if you're trying to be healthy and be active and lose weight? What's the difference if um you just work out like really hard 3 times a month versus a smaller 15-minute workout every day for the entire year?
Um, well, personally, I feel like the small workouts, it would add up because if you just did those like giant big ones, then you wouldn't really have a lot of time to kind of adjust, I think. And with the small ones, it kind of, but then again, with the small, you might not have time. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, fair. I think about like when it comes to budgeting and finance, right? Like so often we wait for like the big things like our tax return or maybe just waiting for that raise to be able to be like, yes, I will accomplish this when I get that, or I'm waiting for the big things to be like, yeah, I'm gonna pay off all my debt when I get that tax return or when that big amount of money comes to me or XYZ, right? Instead of those small, consistent things that are going to help us to be successful. So setting goals is certainly a good way to get us in the right place, starting with a good mindset of where we want to be and then pushing forward to get there. So, making sure our goals are smart is essential in making sure that we accomplish our goals. So, I know most people have heard of SMART goals. Can someone tell me? Well, okay, it's right here on the screen, so never mind. But a SMART goal is one that meets the requirements of being specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. So, for example, um, let's say I have a goal to buy a new car. How can I make that goal a SMART goal?
Um, you can start by deciding what car
Mm-hmm.
and then deciding how much you're gonna spend on the car. Is it gonna be a
Yep.
brand new? Is it gonna be a used car? Um, so that you can then decide, okay, this is how much I need to have by a certain time to buy it.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, you mentioned a few things that I love. So you got to find out, how much is this car and when am I going to buy it? So thinking about making this goal specific, right? I'm going to buy a Toyota Corolla by the end of the year. And thinking about, is this attainable, right? If I'm thinking, okay, I actually want to buy the newest 2025 uh RAV4 whatever. I'm not a car person, so I don't know. But you're thinking like, okay, is that attainable? Can I attain this like brand new expensive car in a short amount of time?
Mhm.
Is it relevant? Um, Meaning, is it um relevant to your particular goal set and your like you being able to to meet that goal, and then time bound, right? Setting up a goal to when you're going to accomplish that. So instead of a goal that's simply stating, hey, I want to buy a car, I want to buy a Toyota Corolla by the end of the year by saving $500 every month for my down payment. So it makes it a lot more specific and it makes it a lot more focused. So you have the end goal, but you also have a way to get there. So, I want you to just think about what long and short-term goals you have right now, specifically financial goals, what those goals are, and then we're going to just take a minute and write this down in your phone, in your notepad, wherever you're going to see it and think about it. Write down one short-term and one long-term financial goal that you have right now and how you're going to get that by using a SMART goal. And if anyone wants to share what theirs is, feel free.
I think my short goal is to pay a credit card that I used to buy some tickets, flight tickets that I'm gonna use in May.
Hmm.
And so it was pay it in 6 months, no interest kind of thing. So I
Hmm.
need to pay it by July. So it makes it really nice in the sense that it's really specific. So my goal is I need to pay $200 each month to be able to pay it off before the day in July, so I don't get charged the interest.
Love it. That's awesome. So it's a great short-term goal. It meets the requirements there. It's specific, it's measurable, because you know exactly when you're going to obtain the goal. Um, Attainable, it's something that you need to self-evaluate. Like, do I have, and am I able to pay $200 a month towards this credit card? Is it relevant to you? Absolutely. And then is it time bound? Yes, because you have that specific date. Awesome. That was a great, great example. So that's your short-term goal. Take a second, think about a long-term goal. You don't have to share it, but think about a long-term goal that you might have financially and just jot that down. Just think what you'd like to attain financially and think about a possibility of a way you could get there. You know, maybe it's, like I said, buying a car, or maybe it's buying a house, or maybe it's going to grad school, paying for grad school, paying off student loans, things like that. So, okay. All right. So next we're going to talk about paying down debt. So I'm glad you mentioned that, Ava. That was one of your goals here, to pay down your credit card. Debt is a huge burden when it comes to monthly budgets for so many people here in the United States and here in Utah. Fun fact for you that the US currently has $1.21 trillion of just credit card debt. So just the credit card debt that is so burdensome because those interest rates are outrageous. There are some really awesome offers right there with 0% interest, which is great when it's like that. But then after that, they surprise you and say, actually, it's 32% interest now. And so I love that goal to pay that down before interest starts accruing on your credit card. But great way to be able to get a better hold on your finances is to pay down debt. So some really common ways that people use to pay down debt is the snowball or the avalanche method. The snowball method is where you take, let's say, a list of your debts and you pay just the minimum balance on, or just the minimum requirement or minimum payment on each of these, except for the very smallest. So you order them from largest to smallest, and then you pay them off from smallest to largest. So you're taking the very smallest debt and you're paying that off first. You put everything you can towards that smallest debt and just pay the minimums on everything else. And then once you've got that smallest debt paid off, you put what you were paying towards that and then everything you have extra towards that next smallest debt. And so you think of it as like a snowball rolling down a hill and gradually getting bigger and bigger because you're paying off more and more of your debt as you go along. And it kind of gives you the momentum of going forward and being able to pay things off and check things off the list. So that's a really good one to think about, like giving you momentum to move forward, because it can help you to be like, yes, I paid this off. Avalanche method, in comparison, is where you would pay off the highest interest rate first. So this method can save some more money because you're paying less money in interest overall, but doesn't have that like mental momentum that the snowball has, that often people feel like they're getting more rewarded with that. But can certainly be a good option when you're wanting to save as much money as possible. So instead of ranking your debts from smallest to largest, you'd rank your debts from highest interest rate to lowest interest rate, and then start with that very highest interest rate, pay the minimums on everything else, and put everything you can towards the highest interest rate credit card. So those are good methods to tackle debt when you feel like you've got some discretionary income, you have some extra to be able to put towards your debt. Whereas these next few options are options where, you know, if you feel like you're in a place where credit card or other consumer debt is overpowering your life and you don't really have a lot extra to be able to pay these off, this can be a good solution in those cases. Tackling your debt on your own versus with the snowball or avalanche method would always be my number one recommendation, but these options can really be a good solution if needed. So debt relief options that are out there, the debt management option is a way that you can work with organizations, typically nonprofit organizations, that will help you to consolidate your debt. They'll give you, for qualifying credit cards, you can consolidate all your credit card payments into one, typically lower monthly payment. And instead of paying like all these different credit cards, you just have one consolidated monthly payment. They typically require that the credit card is closed, so you can't continue to use that credit card, which is great because then you don't continue to incur debt, but certainly something there you'd have to consider like, okay, am I able to actually close this credit card? And something that can also negatively impact your credit score for a temporary time as well when you close those credit cards. Any questions about a debt management plan or how that works?
No.
Okay. Some examples of companies or organizations that offer debt management is debt.com and credit.org. They offer that debt management plan typically for a small fee, but it usually is through a nonprofit, so pretty low fees there. Another option, the next two options to consider are a bit more drastic and have much more impact on your credit score, but are better than drowning. So when you feel like you're drowning in debt, then a debt settlement or even bankruptcy can be a good option. Debt settlement is where a company would go, this would be a for-profit company. So a for-profit company would go and negotiate your credit card debt on your behalf. And they say, hey, Discover, so-and-so can't pay this credit card, but they can pay 50% of it. And they work with you to consolidate your debts and again have a lower monthly payment. So you typically are paying less than what you owe, and can typically be debt-free much faster, but it does have a much larger impact on your credit score because you aren't paying back what the full amount that you owed. And typically requires that you go into default before they can even start helping you. So something to consider, again, this is like if I have no additional resources, I have no discretionary income, and I don't see a way out of this debt. Again, well, it's another option similar to that would be considering filing bankruptcy. That would be something you could consider with a bankruptcy attorney and go down that route where those debts could be written off, but would impact your credit score for about 10 years. So, any questions about that?
No.
Okay, and then just to check in, the presentation, is it still looking weird?
It has been on your third slide, the be good with money, and flashing this whole time. I did try and change it so with the sharing stuff that only like one could share at a time.
Uh-huh.
And I don't think that did anything.
Ava, is that what you're seeing too?
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing too.
No. Okay,
If you want, we can
stop.
try sending it. You can try again, or you can maybe even send it to me. And then maybe because I'm the host, I can
Yeah, let me try it.
mine and I'll just click whenever you tell me to click.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's no good. Sorry that you haven't been able to see any of that. Okay. What's your email, Maggie?
I'll just put it in the chat. Pause the recording for a little bit while we figure this out.
Okay, and then just to make, okay, and then the Zoom is not in your way, right? You can just see the PowerPoint.
Just the PowerPoint.
Okay, great. Okay, sorry about that. Alrighty, so we just went over paying down debt. Okay, next we're going to talk about creating emergency fund. I love this meme, and I think this accurately describes kind of this quote here from Dave Ramsey, who says that an emergency fund turns a crisis into an inconvenience. So this means when you have an emergency and an emergency fund, it's like, oh no, anyway. So you can really just like instead of something that would be like this massive, like, oh no, I have to stop everything and figure out what's going on. It's just a minor speed bump, right? Instead of this huge crash, it's a minor speed bump. So, you know, I mean, how many of us have ever had to um unfortunately go buy some new tires on a month where maybe finances were a little bit tighter or have a medical expense that was unexpected or have to pay for annual kids' clothes because they're growing and it makes your expenses tighter than normal, right? So these expenses that pop up that are you know, the emergency expenses can be a lot less stressful with an emergency fund. And of course, easier said than done. Like it takes time and it takes dedication and it takes responsibility to be able to save and with an emergency fund. Dave Ramsey also suggests that you should have just to get started $1,000. So do everything you can to just have $1,000 put away for an emergency. That can pay for a lot of smaller emergencies like the tires or you know things like that that pop up. And then after that, working to build your emergency fund to 3 to 6 months of your expenses. So calculating, okay, how much do I need to pay all my bills and survive as a bare minimum and have that 3 to 6 months worth for an emergency fund. To be successful at this, you have to pay yourself first. How many times have I heard like, oh yeah, with my savings, I just kind of save what I have left over at the end of the month. But how often is there not anything left over at the end of the month? So paying yourself first is a way to prioritize you and your goals. So, you know, first thing when you get paid, putting money away into savings rather than saying, okay, first thing when I get paid, I need to pay XYZ, paying yourself first and making sure that you are a priority and that your savings are a priority. Of course, that needs to match your expenses, right? If you have enough to save only $30 a month and you're putting more than that, then it's not going to be sustainable in any way. But prioritizing yourself is a great way to make sure that you're successful with creating an emergency fund. Alrighty. So, another savings plan that can be really helpful is to create a plan for irregular expenses. Things like car registration, Christmas. This one on here has tons of stuff for kids' birthdays, music lessons, things like that, right? The things that we have to pay every year or every 6 months or every so often, but aren't consistently coming every month. And so, so often it's just like these ones again are kind of like those surprises, not necessarily an emergency because you know they're coming, but the surprises that are like, oh shoot, I have to pay for XYZ this month. I knew it was coming, but I didn't prep. So one way to really help with that is this irregular expenses savings plan, where you write down all of your irregular expenses, write down what months you have those expenses, total them up for each month, and then for this example here on the screen, you can see. So they've totaled up all the expenses for every single month, and then the grand total is $12,000. So the idea here is that every single month you'd be saving a twelfth of that, so $1,000 a month to pay for these expenses throughout the year. So that when your car needs to be registered in the same month that you're paying for tuition or whatever it is, that it doesn't come and get you at a surprise, and that you do have the funds already put away for those expenses that you'll be paying for anyway. Any questions about irregular expenses or a savings fund like that? Okay. Alrighty. Okay. Okay, so tracking your expenses is going to be vital to make sure that you are on track, that you are attaining your goals, that you're hitting your marks, that you're doing what you want to be doing when it comes to your finances. So finding a way to track is going to be essential for you to be able to know how you're doing along the way. But what I tell people all the time is that a successful budget is one that works for you. And there is no one size fits all way to budget. Some people like it different ways. Some people like to save all their receipts and write everything down. And some people say, I want this as hands off as possible. I don't even want to think about my money. And so finding something that works for you and how you like to interact with your money is going to be a key to helping you to be successful with your finances. James Clear, the same author that wrote Atomic Habits that I mentioned earlier, he says goals are good for setting a direction, but systems are best for making progress. You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. So, creating a system that works for you and that you can be consistent with is really going to be vital in making sure that you're successful in your progress and making sure that you stay consistent and consistently successful with your progress, right? So some months are going to be easier than others to stay on track with a budget, but making sure that you have a system in place to be able to get back on track. If you have a month that's harder than others, this is going to be really helpful to be able to stay on track. So, a couple different ways to be able to track expenses. One popular method is an envelope method. Can anybody tell me what the envelope method is? Has anyone ever heard of that?
I've heard of it. I think it's just like, if I remember right, putting a category, right? Like gas money, lunch money, groceries money, and you put
Uh-huh.
it in the envelope. When it's gone, it's gone.
You
So
got it. Yeah.
it's
You
correct.
got it. That was perfect, Ava. So using cash and like having that visual and being able to actually touch your money is helpful for a lot of people to categorize everything and exactly what you said. When it's gone, it's gone. So this is especially helpful um, for categories that you tend to overspend. So for example, let's say that typically you're overspending in groceries. So you could even just do the envelope method for just one category and then continue to use credit cards or debit cards for your main way to purchase. But just for groceries, you have an envelope method. So you have your cash and you say, hey, I'm only going to spend $500 a month on groceries this month. I'm going to keep it in this envelope that goes with me everywhere I go. I use this when I go to the grocery store, and once it's gone, I'm done buying groceries for the month. So it can be really helpful for those particular categories that are extra tricky to stay on budget with, especially those ones that can vary. So next to those variable expenses. So we've got our fixed expenses, we've got our variable expenses, and our variable expenses are the ones that are going to change every single month, like groceries, like gas, things like that, that we can always anticipate, but never quite know exactly how much. We know exactly how much our rent, our mortgage is every month, but how much is our uh, electric bill going to be every month? That's also a variable expense. So planning for those variable expenses, my biggest suggestion for those is to plan for the highest. Take your average or take your months where you've got the highest expenses and plan for that. Plan for the worst. And then if you've got money left over in those categories, then great. But that can be a good way to make sure that you don't run out on those months when variable expenses are higher than normal. Okay, so in addition, so in regards to budgeting and tracking, there's lots of different apps out there. Do any of you guys use budgeting apps currently?
I've been looking for one, so this is quite nice.
Yeah, I know a lot of people used to use Mint. That was a really popular one, and then that one was they discontinued that. So finding an app that works, again, finding a system that works for you is so important because it's got to be one that you'll actually use. So these are some examples of budgeting apps that can be helpful. Now, I took these four are just four that I found that are absolutely free. They do have like premium versions that you can pay for, but I mean, personally, I do find value in paying for these, but who wants to pay for a budgeting app? Um it seems like the opposite of what you're trying to do here, right? So these ones are absolutely free. I just want to go over kind of the differences between these apps. If one of them works for you, great. Try it out, see if it works. If it doesn't, find something else. Find something that works for you because I can't I can't say this enough. You have to find a system that works for you. That's the only way to be successful in budgeting there. So NerdWallet is a cool one that can help with looking at your credit score as well. So they'll help you track income and expenses that you can connect with your bank account directly. Every dollar is the kind of the mindset where you're planning a home for every single one of your dollars. No dollar goes missing in this one. Where you can really, it's like a zero budget, zero base budget. I don't think I'm saying that right. Where at the end of your budget you have $0 left. You've planned every single cent that you earn. This one you don't sync your accounts, so it does require you to manually enter information, which I don't love, but some people do. My mother-in-law, she would absolutely love doing that every weekend, but not something that sounds fun to me. So that one is a good way to like set reminders for bill payments as well. Pocket Guard is a good one that can again link with your bank accounts, credit cards, and loans, so it can help you to work on paying off debt as well. And it'll show you how much you have left to spend after setting money aside for your necessities, bills, and goals, and savings. Remember to pay yourself first. And it can track your net worth too. So you put in your assets and it can say, okay, net worth currently is this. And you have the option whether or not you want to track your bank account or not. Good Budget, another one is based on the envelope budgeting system. So kind of what we talked about with the cash method of budgeting, but it's essentially going to say, okay, in this category, I'm going to have X amount every month. And again, this one doesn't connect to your bank accounts, but you'd manually add that information there. So this, I think more like the ones that don't add your bank account, I think of more of like just like a basic Excel sheet, like what's the difference there? But these ones can really put in some of your goals there to make it work with what you're working towards. Any questions on any of those? Okay. Great. Okay, so I can promise you that if you don't review and revise your budget, you will not be successful with your budget. Taking the time to sit down and actually look at what you've done, and whether or not you've met your goals for your budget. This is essential for budgeting. So plan beforehand when you're going to review your budget. Are you going to do this weekly, monthly, semi-annually? You know, how often works for you, and then actually do it. Follow through with that. Because if you're not taking a look at what you've done, you have no idea in what ways you need to improve. So making changes if something is not working. I set a budget for $200 for gasoline every month, and I'm consistently spending $400. Why? What's going on? What's the difference? And how can I adjust this in other aspects of my budget to make sure that this works for me? And then if you find that you're consistently overspending in one area, or in all areas, right? Consistently, my income is $3,000 a month, and consistently I'm spending $3,500 every single month. There's an issue, right? There's something that needs to be resolved there. And just like with we talked a little bit about physical fitness, the key to losing weight um, is to consume less calories than you eat and move more, right? But same thing with budgeting. The key to being successful with budgeting is to spend less than you make. So much easier said than done. So finding ways to increase your income or decrease expenses is the solution for when you're constantly overspending. But again, easier said than done. Some ways to increase income: selling assets, ask for a raise, find a part-time job, decrease expenses, determining your wants versus your needs. This is huge. Am I buying all this stuff because I really need it, or because my kids beg me every time we go to the grocery store? Or do I, is this essential for me to be able to reach my goals, or is this something that's more of a want, right? So determining needs versus your wants there. Cutting unnecessary subscriptions. How many of us have had subscriptions that maybe we forget about? So, looking through your expenses and seeing those subscriptions that you're paying for regularly and cut those out if you're not using them. And then learning DIY home skills like cooking, home repairs, and basic car maintenance can absolutely save money there. Learning from YouTube can be incredible. Being able to, change your oil, or make your own meals, and saving money on your eating out budget can be huge there. What are some other ways that you guys can think of to either increase income or decrease expenses?
Put your kids to work.
Love it. I love it.
Um, I keep reminding my 16-year-old, you can find a job, you can pay
Uh-huh.
for this on your own.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. My son's on repeat right now because like every person he meets, he he's obsessed with animals right now, like animals of every kind, farm animals, jungle animals, whatever. He loves them. And he is like on repeat, I need to save my money because I want to buy more animals. And he'll just tell anybody that. And I'm like, yes, that this is like something I'm like cramming in his head. Like, you have to save your money. I'm not just going to give you money. I'm not just going to pay for your stuff. Like, you got to work for it too.
Yeah.
So yeah, teaching your kids that is super important. Um, and I mean, it works a lot better for a 16-year-old than a 2-year-old, hopefully, but
Yeah.
I love that. Any other way to decrease expenses that you guys can think of?
Getting my nails done, it was like crazy how much they wanted to charge. So I bought like a kit on Amazon for like 30 bucks. And
Love
I've
it.
had it for like 2 years and I use it all the time. And I've saved like I don't even know how much money. I would love to do the math about how much money I've saved, but like
Yeah, for two
it's
years, probably
impressive.
hundreds of dollars.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's so cool. So finding little ways to save on things that you don't necessarily have to get rid of, but maybe just alter so that they are less. I love that. Any other ideas to increase income? That can be a tricky one.
Um, well, you already have that part-time job.
Mhm.
The way I do it is I only pick up hours when they offer time and a half. Like
Nice.
Okay, I'll go work for time and a half.
Yeah. Yeah, when it's going to be more beneficial for you than what it costs to put in the extra hours for sure. Love that. Yeah, that can be tricky to think of ways to increase your income. Um, and so often I think people get in the mindset where they're stuck like, oh, if only I made more money, then I'd be able to do XYZ. If only I had more money, then I could do this. But you think of all the uh millionaires who have gone broke or famous people who have filed bankruptcy, right? And it's like it doesn't matter how much your income is if your habits and your spending aren't um you aren't being responsible with those. So, going forward, okay, so going into a little bit more deep depth about budgets on a budget, thinking ways to decrease expenses. Public assistance can be really helpful in these cases. There's in childcare.gov goes over specifics. You can choose the state of Utah that goes over some different financial assistance programs for the state of Utah. So I'll just go through these briefly, but encourage you to check out childcare.gov to see if you may qualify for any one of these. First one is childcare financial assistance. This can be super helpful. The cost of childcare is outrageous. So, this is an assistance program to help receive aid paying for childcare. Temporary assistance for needy families, or TAMF, is a financial assistance geared towards self-sufficiency, so helping the well-being of children and families. Children's Health Insurance Program, CHIP, is a health insurance plan for uninsured kids. Women, Infants, and Children, or WIC, provides nutritional services. And then Utah Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, offers nutrition assistance to buy healthy food, or also known as food stamps. And then there's the Low Income Energy Assistance Program. The HEAT program provides year-round energy assistance for eligible low-income houses throughout Utah. And then thinking particularly about groceries, because I know this can be a big one that impacts a lot of budgets, that impacts a lot of families, especially with inflation and the cost of eggs right now. I can't even handle it. Just thinking about ways to save money in groceries. Price matching, if you want to take the time to look at coupons, this can be a really, really great way to save money. I'm so bad at it, but I think it's so helpful when I do find those, and I feel like such a champ when I'm like, actually, I can get this cheaper here, so can you match this? And they're like, yes. So very exciting when that works. Meal prepping, so planning beforehand what you're gonna eat before you go to the grocery store, so you know exactly what you need to buy. Can be so helpful to save money on groceries, so you're not just buying several things every time you go, and then you need to go back and buy more, and then you end up spending more. And then grocery pickup. I don't know if any of you guys love this as much as I do, but I love grocery pickup because, one, it's free. It's absolutely free. You just go there and pick up your stuff. And you can also see how much you're spending while you're shopping. So you've got the total right at the top. Okay, does this match my budget for the month? And that can be a really great way to say, okay, actually, I'm not going to buy XYZ because that doesn't fit in the budget for this month. Or I still can spend this amount and be totally fine. So super helpful ways to help with groceries there. This is just an additional information about specifically the SNAP, or the food stamps eligibility. This gives you an idea of what your income would have to look like and household size to qualify. This is for your 2025, so the most updated. So what your income would have to look like for you to qualify for food stamps. And then extra tips specifically for single parents. Ava, you said you have a 16-year-old. How many other kids do you have?
Yeah, I have a 17-year-old daughter and then three boys, 16, 14, and 12.
Okay, awesome. So expensive. Kids are
Yeah,
expensive. And that age, particularly when they're getting into hobbies and all sorts of extracurriculars, that's expensive for sure.
yeah.
Um, so this first one here, activities for your kids are possible. They just require a bit of extra planning. This is where, your SMART goals would come into play. Thinking like, hey, I want to take my kids on a family vacation. It doesn't seem viable right now, but how could I get there, right? Like you don't necessarily have to say, no, kids, we're not doing this, which I have a problem with. Sometimes I think, okay, I just don't want to spend any money. I'm just going to say no to everything. But that's not necessarily the case. You don't have to do that. Activities and things like that are possible. But just require that plan, right? That create a SMART goal. Yeah, we want to go on a cruise, a family cruise, or we want to go to Disneyland. How are we going to get there? What are we going to do? Maybe as a family to work together to get to accomplish that goal.
Yeah.
And then tons of like free activities as well, working with your community and finding activities that can be low cost or free as well are super helpful. And then remembering to treat yourself, but do it wisely, right? Like find time to remember that you are important as well and that not every cent should go to your kids. That sometimes you need to take care of you so that you can be the best parent that you can be for your kids. But in a wise way, right? Not going overboard. And then stop working so hard for your money and make your money work for you. I my like philosophy on money uh, in life is that I don't want to think about it. I don't want money or finances to rule my life. I want it to be um I want it to be there when I need it and not have to focus on it. And so I do everything I can to automate things where I don't have to think about it. So for example, like automating your bills to auto pay, making sure you have enough money going into a bills account or whatever that you're going to be able to pay those off where you don't have to think about it. And some people like to be more hands-on than that, and that's absolutely fine, but making it as simple as possible so that you are going to actually like accomplish those goals that you need to is going to be essential there. And then um, money should be a tool. So kind of similar with that same thought. Money should be a tool and it shouldn't run your life. It should be there to help you to accomplish the things in your life that bring you joy, that make you happy, but it shouldn't be something that causes you so much pain and anxiety that that's all you can think about. And so, if you feel like you're in a place like that, then look at some help. Look at some of the resources that I provided for debt or savings plans, things like that. And then automating that when you can. And that's everything. So thank you so much for being here tonight and for participating. I appreciate your your input, Ava. And did you guys have any questions on what we went over today?
No.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here and for letting me participate, and Maggie for getting this all set up.
No, thank you. Thank you so much for this. This is very informative.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
thank you. That was amazing, Lindsay. Thank you so much.
Of course. Yeah, you guys have a wonderful rest of your night.
You too.
Bye-bye.